Frog. I'm on Twitter, Twitch all the time. I watch, different streamers. So, I'm really up to date on a lot of the news, news and so on and so forth. So I might be terminally online. That's probably my problem. But anyway, I'm here to help, and I will try to help by being a conduit between this and the DSA.
Jason, I'm also at the East Bay DSA.
Are you? Okay, I'm relatively new, about 6 months. I've just attending, meetings and so on and so forth. I am interested in the internationalist aspect that they've just created. They've agreed to start working with international leftist groups, which is great. I think that was really something that, and then when I saw this reparations committee being formed, I was super hyped about that. So kind of made me a little bit more interested in just than just, paying my dues every month or whatever the case is. So it was, I think a convergence of things happened here. So, like I told Sam, I do have aspirations possibly of getting into politics. So we'll see. So.
There's a dearth of Black people in the East Bay DSA, and it's been kind of an issue for a long time.
No, I know. I've heard, yeah.
And my first meeting there was when Kat Brooks stormed in, and it was a memorable meeting. I ran out and hugged her. It was it kind of pointed to a problem on.
I've heard that there's some problems there for sure. And I think that it's just ignorance. I think it just comes down to ignorance personally. I think that people are just unaware, and the more they know, and like you said, they see the numbers and it's laid out bare to them, and I think people will come around. But like Edie said, we're not going to convince the people that think that CRT is the basis for all Marxist theory. You know what I'm saying? Like that we're not like working with the Boogaloo boys. I may be too internet on this right now, but you understand what I'm saying? Like there's a lot of stuff there that, there's people that are leftists that say this is the best path forward. And I really don't think that we should be listening to a lot of those people. But I just think that I think that the DSA is a good vehicle for that. Now, obviously, I'm not as jaded as other people because I haven't been around for a long time, but I think that it has the numbers and it has the resolution, and I think in our instance here, I think that it's useful, and I think that like I said, it's convergence, and I think that right place, right time for me. I think in regards to that. So
I'm skeptical, but I want to talk about that later.
Yeah,
some more people who haven't talked.
John D.
Yeah, no, really cool discussion. Yeah, so the Mud mentioned something really intriguing about the South, that it's like kind of, we're do a little South bashing before, it was kind of fun, but that it was more integrated, and that it's fascinating because it reminded me, my buddy Omari from Baltimore, he came up to visit Boston for a little bit, and up here in the Northeast, we will say something like the Puerto Rican neighborhood, the Italian neighborhood, the Polish neighborhood, and Omari heard that phrase and he's like, oh, what does that even mean? So there's this weird integration, segregation divide in the North that a lot of people don't really like to talk about as well. And this guy, Omari, and I were just talking about how, the South is not exactly what you might think of it, in certain ways. And the North, you guys have an Italian neighborhood. What does that even mean? So it's just like his reaction was like kind of bewildered about that. So like every state in America, every kind of region, we have these things, and there's been a quote unquote riot in almost every big city in every state. Like we have this history of these quote unquote, race relations. And I think how Howard Zinn approaches it, as we kind of like bash the South and stuff, is that us Americans, we like this myth, this historical exceptionalism. We choose our heroes deliberately, this kind of Robert E. Lee worship, the Confederate statues, that stuff came kind of after. But Howard Zinn's idea is like, instead of shaming these areas and stuff, like give them better heroes, different icons, different people to think of. And I was fascinated in the South that there were these radical abolitionists, people make fun of this red brown alliance thing, but there was that Black Panther Young Patriots thing where they had the boys with the Confederate flags that did that, they couldn't eat, they couldn't feed themselves, but after they started feeding themselves, then they dropped the Confederate flag. So I think someone mentioned that. So the idea of the deprogramming of the Southern racists and kind of using them is an interesting part of history. And like Howard Zinn, or kind of a critical race theory, if we want to talk about it in an actual positive way, not in a caricature, what critical race theory would try to use would say that for the South, for the Northeast, for wherever you are, there's a lot of heroes that we can look to. And the South just has actually a pretty profound history that I'm starting to dig into just now. Like there's rural revolutionaries and things like that in the South. They used to, even in West Virginia, there was this whole town that they started using the Black Panthers 10-point program. Like I didn't even know that they started their own town, that they started feeding all the poor white people based on the Black Panthers 10-point program. And some people say, oh, these kids were CIA. I'm like, well, what the fuck? I don't know. I'll read about it. But I think with the South, it's very easy for us to caricature in the North, and it's very easy. And obviously, sometimes some of the overt racism is oof, but sometimes one wonders the other history there that's been buried, this kind of Robert E. Lee lost cause stuff that we're being fed. I wonder if our own legacy, our jazz music or Black music in the Northeast, we're being robbed of our history, and we're being robbed of unity, and these are the poor people that were unified. And a lot of the elite historians, the court historians that write our textbooks and sell our books to us, they sell a very intriguing narrative. So I'm learning more about the South. I'm not coming off as defending the South there, but just Mud's point was really interesting there about how, it's actually, it feels a little more integrated in the South, if that long rant made any sense. So, yeah.
I can give y'all another quick example of the South. Like when you mentioned the lost cause theory, or lost cause message, pushing the lost cause, I still have Dixie go through my head. I'm 48 years old. Dixie pops in my head. And I haven't lived in the South in 20 years. Like this stuff is taught to us. It's put into us from the very beginning. Like, we have the statues of the soldier on the Confederate soldier is still on our courthouse square, So, yeah, just that example. Sorry, I lingered too long on that.
Well, I just want to say this. When I talked about integration, I wasn't just talking about how, like, where people live and all that. I think that what I've noticed, like cities generally try to hide like their Black population. They try to kind of put us in a corner, whereas in the South, there's it's kind of weird. It's like a cultural exchange that is still happening. Like I don't know, there's not that much distance between us and white people in that regard, but there's still a clear, like the hierarchies are still clear. Like it's very defined. It's just that I don't think that there is an effort for Southerners to act as if we don't exist. Like, I don't know. Maybe I should shut up and let someone else talk.
Now, I think I see what you're saying. Like, it's like the social hierarchy is like more prevalent down there. Does that make sense? Anybody?
Yeah, I mean, it is, but it's clearly defined.
Yeah.
Whereas
it's based up in the North, it's based on where you actually live. Because like if you live in like the inner city, like you don't have a say so in whether or not you're going to interact with Black Americans. Whereas, if you live in one of those white flight towns, you don't have any type of interaction with Black people. Like Black people can't afford to be out here. And if they are, I'm calling the police.
Wow. Yeah.
All right, anybody else? Sorry, my internet connection has been insane.
You know what the best, no, Sam, one last thing. The best part of being on the reparations team is that these conversations, people have these conversations all the time in all ages. The best part of the reparations is conversation is that there's always that, I don't know if positive is the right word. There's always that redemption. You know, there's always a policy that we have to hold on to. Okay, everybody's learning about systemic racism. This is the wave now. You know, Black people have been living this for 400 years. You know, the Robin DiAngelo is educating everybody with her new books. We're trying to get the, you know, the stubborn Karens are still out there, but we're trying. But this, the best part about reparations is that, you know, at least we have a policy to hold on. Okay, we're learning about systemic racism. Here's what we can do about it. Whether you hand them Dr. Darity's book or we hand them the channel, you know, here's how, you know, everybody talks about poverty in the inner cities, reparations. I talk about the music industry, reparations. You know, I talk about housing, and it's not even the check. It's right. It's not. It's the scales, this caste system we talk about. You know, all the scholars in India that write about the caste system. You got to do it politically. You got to do it economically. You know, you have to do it economically. So it's not just the check. It's just that balancing of this scale. You know, yeah, the conversations definitely end up, when you get into the history, depressing and, oh, you know, the reality of the conversation. But at least with reparations, what I like is that, you know, you learn about these things, but then you also have the, you know, the atonement at the end of it. You know, and Dr. Darity's book is structured like that too. It's that all that brutal history, all that real history, and then here's the plan. So I don't know any other person on the left. Everybody loves charging 5 figures to talk about these things and teaching us white people about our racism and these new curriculums and everything. But the quote unquote solution is really only found in the reparations crowd. That's what I think is very redeeming. Everybody likes to wallow in the pity of our history, and man, it's just, even just pulling out of this recent war, just to be an American, just really, you sit back and you almost want, you have this sickness, this disgust, this soulless feeling. But then at least with reparations, we have a plan. You know, we have a positive perspective and a historical basis. And I think that's great. And I don't want it to be all negative. I bring up these history, but that's why I like this crowd, is that at least we have that, you know, and it's real. You know, we got something in the house, you know, there's something there, whether you like bourgeois politics or not, we got something, you know, at least something there. So there's something real to happen. So that's my last thought.
Anybody got any? Go ahead.
Oh yeah, I just wanted to add, you know, it's not just the Karens. I think there is a Karen in each one of us. You know, and
sorry,
kind
my
of,
bad, you know, stereotype.
Yeah, no, it's fine. It's fine. It's just I think this, I mean, we all know this stuff goes a lot deeper, and we each harbor plenty of, you know, like, are we willing to catch ourselves in the thought that leads in a direction that's distasteful? You know, like, are we able to catch ourselves? This is, I think, a lot of what, you know, the deeper work on this entails, like really observing ourselves in action every day, like, you know, watching our thoughts and our emotions erupt over something, and then really tasting all that and feeling a kind of a remorse, and then growing from it. I mean, I just, you know, I spent so much, like, the past 6 years or 5 years, whatever, you know, in this hyper activist mode. And at the end of the day, I'm like, you know, we can't move anywhere until we deal with this inner stuff. It's nothing, you know, nothing will change until we change. So just mentioning that, this morning I woke up thinking of a friend of mine here in Berkeley. She lives around, we went to college together in New York, and she's German, and she's a therapist, and she does like visual art, you know, helping, I forget what it's called, visual art therapist or something like that. And so she was part of this thing called Body Tales here in Berkeley, where through movement and music, people explore their various traumas and try healing from it. And so she's German, and she presented, I went to see her perform. She did like with her body and voice and dance. She was going through her, how shall I say, the pain of the Nazi Germany and what effect it had on people, on like them, all the Germans basically. And she was working through that. And that was the only time ever in that performance that I saw like a white American really on a very deep and honest level kind of deal with the pain. This woman experienced pain from her family having owned slaves. So she was coming to terms with that history through this Body Tales movement, which I thought was a very interesting, it was a deep and profound and honest, really, way to tackle all this baggage, as we like to call it.
I think
yeah.
Those feelings, I think, are super important, and it is important for us to process. I think it's at best our second priority in the space of reparations. We have a lot of pain, and we have to carry and deal with all of that after we do our work. It's kind of like an after hours, in my view. Some people will say you can't get to the point where you're a strong ally until you process that stuff, but I think that's another reason not to do the work itself. I think that it's important for us to talk about and feel that we can be that we're in an accepting and safe space when we talk about it. At the same time, I want to know if there are enough people in my congressional district that that will make calls to my senator to get that bill passed, to get that check cut. Like, to me, that's all here. And it's not like it's not like a forget your feelings moment. I'm not saying that, but it's at the same time, it's we have to be very careful as white people that we don't create a whole movement to talk about how we have hurt feelings about how we are so racist, because we will create foundations. We will get grants from the National Endowment for the Arts for $100 million to do performances at the Met about how we feel bad. It'll become a whole industry, and we still won't have reparations.
Right. That's not what I meant, but yeah.
I know.
I can see the danger of that. Yeah.
We've always got to strike that balance.
Yeah.
But I hear you, and I think it's great that there are people doing that. It feels like you're in a community where that's more likely to happen than other places.
Well, Barbara Lee is my congressperson, so. Sam, you're muted.
I said you got Barbara Lee.
Mm-hmm.
At least she had a decent bill. It wasn't a reparations bill, but it checked a lot of boxes. But we missed the ball on that one in the last house. But I forgot what it was called. It was pretty interesting. Edie, I saw you said you had to go.
Oh, it's hard for me. As far as the bills go, we got to get down on those bills and call people, and that's the goal, is just get this stuff through legislation. That's the goal. Get the stuff through legislation. Get the bills passed. Yeah, we just got to get enough people, and
that's what it boils down to, the people. Go ahead.
Yeah, because we do, look, it's hard. We have people marching for voting rights yesterday. We already had the Voting Rights Act 55 years ago. And the reason we can't get this Voting Rights Act passed is because of 2 Democratic senators who won't change the filibuster or get rid of the filibuster. So here we are. We are begging 2 Democrats with a big ass march in Washington, D.C. this weekend. It's just every little thing is so hard. And so we just have to make sure that we are building a database of people that will call for people. That's what we have to do. Nothing else matters. That's what the DNC fights for every election. They want the candidates' phone banking stats. They want all of their phone bank. They wanted Bernie's phone banking database so bad they couldn't stand themselves. And so that's what it's all about. We get our database, we get our people, and we get ready for the next time an HR 40 comes up. That's what we have to do.
Amen.
So
And
I hope we can get on Mastodon. Are we going to get on Mastodon? Are we going to?
It's on our list. It's on our list of things to do, Edie. We'll talk
Okay.
about that. We'll talk about
Sorry,
that.
I get hyped up. I don't
We'll
even
talk about
drink.
that not in a show atmosphere. We'll talk about that.
Okay, I don't even drink coffee, y'all.
You're so funny. But
Okay, I am gonna leave though. I have to.
Okay,
go.
Edie, I'll talk to you later.
Thank you. It was so nice to see y'all. Take care.
Bye.
Listening to Reset Race, you now tuned in to Reset Race. You're listening to Reset Race, you're now tuned in to Reset Race. What? Put them back on the grill again. We grilling them. Put them back on the grill again. We grilling them. Put them back on the grill again. We grilling them. Back on the grill again. We grilling them. You're listening to Reset Race. ADOS need reparations to make America great. You're tuned in to Reset Race. We no longer starving while others eat off our plate. No. You're listening to Reset Race. We focused on our justice claim. We know what is at stake. You're tuned in to Reset Race. You'll find out who really about justice and really who fake. Lineage go back to US Southern plantations. Lineage, Jim Crow and mass incarceration. Redlining lynchings. We are old from this nation. You're not about justice if you ain't for reparations. MG the wise one. Cousin mother intellectual. Samantha bringing fire. Anti-black. We pressing you. No permanent friends and no permanent enemies. The backbone of the country. The way you need our energy. You gon' see. Listening to Reset Race. You now tuned in to Reset Race. You're listening to Reset Race. You're now tuned in to Reset Race. Put them back on the grill again. We grilling them. Put them back on the grill again. We grilling them. Put them back on the grill again. We grilling them. Back on the grill again. We grilling them. You're listening to Reset Race. ADOS need reparations to make America great. You're tuned in to Reset Race. We no longer starving while others eat off our plate. No. You're listening to Reset Race. We focused on our justice claim. We know what is at stake. You're tuned in to Reset Race. You'll find out who really about justice and really who fake.
Until you do right by me, everything you think about is gonna crumble.
Negroes should do whatever is necessary to bring about a complete solution to their problem. When I say whatever is necessary, they should have the flexibility to do whatever is necessary to solve the problem.